Hello, I'm Clark Henry. I'd like to take a moment to speak to you about microaggressions. What are they, their impact, and ways to respond? Microaggressions are subtle statements and behaviors that consciously and unconsciously communicate denigrating messages to people who identify with certain social groups. There are three different types. We have microassaults. They're intentionally and explicitly derogatory verbal or nonverbal attacks. There are micro-insults, rude and insensitive subtle put-downs of someone's racial heritage or identity. And then there are micro-invalidations, remarks that diminish, dismiss, or negate the realities of people's social groups. Microaggressions are typically unconsciously perpetrated. They are powerful due to their subtle, sometimes invisible nature, especially to those who do not share the identity of the victim, and instances that cause the recipient to experience strong emotions, attempt to understand what was meant by the interaction, and then decide how to respond to the incident. Here we have examples of microaggressions, the associated context, and then a specific example. Alien in own land. You speak English really well. Ascription of intelligence. Did you really get an A on that exam? Color blindness. When I look at you, I just see a human. Criminality. Person being extra attentive around BIPOC. Denial of individual racism. I have BIPOC partners or friends or relatives. The myth of meritocracy. Everyone can succeed if they just work hard. Myth of diversity. You were only admitted or invited for diversity purposes. Pathologizing culture. You're too loud or aggressive or quiet or passive. Second-class citizen. Assumption one is a janitor, taxi driver, secretary, nurse, etc. Or environment. No statues or pictures of BIPOC in halls or rooms. Health impact of microaggressions include, but are not limited to, they can cause mental health effects such as depression and anxiety. These have a dose-response relationship with depression and anxiety, meaning that the more they get exposed to microaggressions, the higher they tend to experience depression or anxiety. They can also create a physical health problem such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and obesity. Chronic stress increases allostatic load, which is an elevated endocrine response. The social and cognitive impacts of microaggressions include perpetuate stereotypes and passively allow community to devalue specific groups. They can cause energy to be diverted away from learning or developing new skills and/or productivity by increasing cognitive load. They can also create a lack of trust within communities, resulting in people being less likely to engage socially or develop close interpersonal relationships. The microaggressions triangle model was developed by K. Ackerman Barger and N.M. Jacobs. The microaggressions triangle model is a humanistic approach to responding to microaggressions that considers the perspectives of everyone involved. The model focuses on how to construct responses to rebuild relationships. Each individual should visualize themselves from each angle of the triangle and understand the role from each perspective. If the overall goal is to learn and grow as a community and to promote inclusivity, then from a restorative justice standpoint, rebuilding healthy bonds and relationships is imperative. Here we have the roles in microaggression scenarios. We have the recipient, the source, and the bystander. As the recipient, you can take the action approach. That is to ask clarifying questions, come from curiosity, not judgment, tell what you observed in a factual manner, impact exploration, own your own thoughts and feelings, and then next steps. Using the action approach. So to ask a clarifying question, what did you mean by that? Coming from curiosity, I want to better understand your statement or your action, and can you explain it to me? Tell what you observed. I noticed that when you asked some of the other members about their demeanor, you did not express the same level of concern. Impact exploration. Ouch, your surprise made me feel like people doubt my ability and intellect. Own your thoughts and feelings about the subjects. It's difficult being one of the few BIPOC members in our community. Next steps. Hey, let's go to work now, but if you want to talk about this later, I would be happy to have a discussion with you. Recipient notes. It is important to understand that when you are being mistreated, especially in your role as a community member, you are in a nearly impossible situation and many factors must be considered. Be careful not to respond in a way that makes the situation worse or even makes you seem like the aggressor. Consider whether you are safe both physically and in terms of your status. Addressing the issue at a later time does not equate to letting it go. Seek the wise counsel of a trusted mentor or friend that can help you make an informed plan about how to respond. Addressing it in the moment is also an option, but only if your motivation is to uphold the principles of community and to take advantage of a teachable moment. If your motivation is emotion-based, there is a possibility that the situation will escalate. Reporting the incident gives the institution the opportunity to create a more supportive environment. As the source of the microaggression, you can use the assist approach. That is to acknowledge your bias, seek feedback and information, say you are sorry, focus on the impact, not the intent, and say thank you. Using the assist approach. Acknowledge your bias. We need to avoid being the source of microaggressions by becoming familiar with and mitigating our unconscious implicit biases. This requires ongoing lifelong work. Seek feedback and information. As soon as you become aware that the recipient is experiencing a microaggression, learn more about what is happening for them. This is an amazing opportunity for you to learn and to grow. If someone cares enough about you to let you know how they felt about your comment, this is a gift, and you should learn all you can from it without being defensive. Say you are sorry. Apologies can be hard because we often think of them as an admission of wrongdoing. However, an apology should be about recognizing someone else's pain. Focusing on the impact, not the intent. As you realize you are the source, you may be deeply compelled to say, "No, I didn't mean it that way." In this moment, it is crucial to remember that this is about the impact on the individual, not about your intentions. Defensiveness about the impact could take away from your apology. An example of this is, although it was not my intention to harm you, I see now how my actions and words affected you, and I am sorry. Say thank you. They just took the time and the risk to teach you. This is a gift. Be appreciative. An example of this is, thank you so much for the feedback. I appreciate you taking the time to help me grow as an individual. Source notes. Avoid becoming defensive. Whether your intention was to hurt another person or not, and regardless of whether you and the recipient are seeing the situation differently, this is a great opportunity for you to learn about someone else's experience. Be present and listen. Be aware of confirmation bias. This is a tendency to gather information or respond to a circumstance in a way that confirms an already established belief or an idea. And then also be aware of commitment confirmation. This supports confirmation bias. It is when our minds become attached to particular points of view, even when they are wrong, and can lead to a form of self-motivated reasoning. This is an over-attachment to being right rather than a genuine seeking of the truth. As the bystander of a microaggression, you can use the arise approach. This is awareness of the microaggression, responding with empathy, inquiry of facts, statements that start with I, and educate and engage. Using the arise approach. Awareness. Mindfulness and perspective-taking skills can be used to imagine how the microaggression was experienced by the recipient. Respond with empathy and avoid judgment. Inquiry. Approach the situation with curiosity. Make inquiries, gather facts and perspectives. Statements that start with I. I statements can be used to express what the bystander noticed about what was said and about how others reacted. A bystander can also use I statements to talk about how the comment made them feel. Educate and engage. Educating the source can be done through developing discrepancy between the speaker's intent and the outcome of their behavior. Engaging toward a common goal is the second part of this step. Notes for the bystander. Assess the situation. Every situation is different. Consider the safety of all individuals. Is this the time and the place to confront this? What would be the best strategy for interrupting an interaction? How do I preserve the dignity of the individuals and the relationships? Rebuilding. During a microaggression, there are threats to the reputations of all involved. The recipient may be seen as oversensitive, the source as racist, and the bystander as a coward. Rebuilding gives all involved the opportunity to restore their reputations and repair relationships. It is important to note that microaggressions do not pertain to BIPOC alone. Microaggressions can be made towards anyone from a historically marginalized group, including, but not limited to, race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, age, socioeconomic status, nationality, religion, or disability. This communities conference, please be mindful of your words and actions, be kind, be considerate, be respectful, be understanding, and be loving. Thank you for this time. I appreciate it. If we have any questions, you can let me know.